When we talk about ending a marriage or ending a long-term relationship, what usually comes up is people will say, well, yeah, I know we made mistakes. We made mistakes with communication and with sex and with money. Those three are the three big reasons for a divorce. But like I've said many times, divorce doesn't just happen. Divorce happens because of behaviors, habits couples get into. And they get into these habits that it becomes a routine. And then getting out of the habit or replacing it with a better habit becomes insurmountable to them, because at that point they've gone so far in being angry at each other and being resentful that going to therapy seems like a waste to them. And changing their mind at that point is just impossible. And I don't know why, because if you think about it, changing your mind is on daily things is quite easy. You basically get a different perspective, and then you allow your mind to say, oh, okay, well, let's try it this way. But if you think about it, if you've practiced a bad habit for so long, then changing your mind becomes more about your ego, about your pride. Like, no, I won't give this up. I won't do this for him or her. And those are the behaviors that ultimately lead to the breakdown of the marriage, to a point where money, sex, and miscommunication begins to take over. I want to go through those 5 habits that, if you see yourself falling in this, for goodness sakes, be able to say, I heard that video, and I know this is something I can change. This is a perspective, because you will save yourself so much grief and so much money if the two of you can work early on the situation so it doesn't lead to a problem further down the line. The first behavior you don't want to go on with is you ignore issues as a couple. As a couple, when you get married, there has got to be an understanding that there's nothing you can't tell each other. That you trust your partner. Basically, if you tell them this, that they'll be on your side, that they'll advocate for you, that they will still stand by you. In other words, there can't be any issue that's so shameful or so embarrassing that you would be afraid if your partner found out. You'd be afraid they would feel differently about you. You'd be afraid they would leave you. So if you have one of those, clear that up before you get married, because as you go on in years, you guys have to share everything. You have to be willing to talk about those really tough topics. The second thing is, you don't work on the relationship. I know many couples come in and they'll tell me, if we have to work on it, then it can't be right. There has to be something wrong with this partner and my personality, or my personality and this person's personality. No, every great marriage requires work. And the work is in the small sacrifices you make every day. Oh, he likes it like this. I know it upsets him, or it makes him feel bad or awkward if I put him in this situation, so I'm not going to put him in this situation. Or she is overwhelmed. I know if I add this to her plate, it'll be too much. I'll take care of this. Those are simple sacrifices you make every day, so you don't fall into this where you're not going to work on the relationship. You get married and then you just let it go. That right there is basically a path you're choosing for destruction of your relationship. The third one, you and your partner don't communicate well. If you guys can't communicate well in the beginning, rethink getting married at this time. If you're still in that stage where you want to be engaged, or you're thinking about engagement, but yet you can't talk to each other, you can't be open, then take classes. Go see a therapist who will do an education with you. Go to a marriage retreat. Learn how to talk. Learn how to communicate with each other. A lot of people say, well, we communicate a lot better than my parents. That's not enough. If you had parents who are ineffective and didn't have a good marriage, then for goodness sakes, don't use them as a comparison. Instead, find marriage mentors, people who are married, who do a good job, who talk about how difficult it is every day to make these choices. Follow them. Ask them for advice. Ask them if they'll help you learn communication skills. It's really important that you have this down. Communication skills mean that when you talk to each other, there aren't misunderstandings. There's not anything that you don't feel connected with. There's not something they do that shuts down. And this includes unfair ways to fight. Make sure you brush up on those too, because you might think right now you'll never have an argument, but I promise you, you will. The closer you get, the more you're going to find out those areas you don't agree on. And those are important. You shouldn't be each other's yes men, but you should have a way to work it out. The fourth one, if you stop spending time together, you need to spend time together. And when your partner says, I feel like we don't get enough time together, I don't want you to go into a debate. Well, we spend more time than so-and-so, or we spend more time than my parents ever did, or we spend more time than what you did last year, whatever. You know that's going nowhere. When one partner says, I don't feel like I get enough of you, I don't feel like we spend enough time together, move toward them, ask them, how can we do better with that? How can we spend more time together? For some people, an hour a day is enough. For other people, it's 2 or 3 hours. Maybe you can't give them that, but you can negotiate a middle. And once again, this is well done before the marriage, where you talk about how much time do we need, understanding that as you grow in the marriage, as you change, as the marriage deepens, you may need more or less time together. But that's something the two of you need to be able to share with each other, knowing that you won't be criticized, but you will be supported. And lastly, you don't delegate jobs. If you try to do it all, I'm going to tell you who you'll become: one resentful partner. You need to delegate. When you have kids, they should start doing some of the chores. If you can't keep up with things going on, hire the people who can. You might love a big garden. You might love a lot of land. But if you can't take care of it, then it's important to have in mind, we're going to need to hire someone to help us with this. No job should be solely placed on one partner. There has to be a division of labor. Both people have to co-work so they can co-lead and enjoy being part of this relationship. If this video is helpful for you, please subscribe. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much.